Yo, patrons! It's Johannes from NoisePod, and it's Friday, and it's plugin release day. So this Friday, I'm updating Tjock to version 1.22, and Tjock is one of those plugins. Like pretty much, I have this thing, which is a metallic box with two transformers in it, and I don't remember what kind of transformer they are, but sometimes I run audio through this while mastering when other things don't work, and if I like the result I keep it, otherwise I don't, of course. But this is a bit like, I don't really know what happens with audio. I know that something happens, and sometimes that's very pleasant, especially when you run it in mid-side, because you get some kind of stereo image shift, because there are non-linearities in that thing, especially if you drive it a little bit hard. Let's go to this plugin, which is also a guilty pleasure kind of thing. It used to be a plugin that you could kind of count on to do a specific task, and it would keep the integrity of the track, decent. It would probably make something sound a little bit better, a little bit warmer and stuff like that. But with this release, version 1.22, I added a polarity switch, so we turn the waveform upside down. And since this runs in parallel, that means if you use the minimum phase filter, that is without the liner phase button pushed in, then you will experience all kind of changes in the low end, because if you use a lot of poles, then you get a really steep filter that you blend in with the original, and that filter will have a lot of phase shifts that will cancel out certain frequencies and will boost others. So you pretty much, you get just kind of a whole new low end. And sometimes that's what audio needs, especially while producing and mixing, just to get that right feel. You just don't do exactly what's supposed to do. Maybe you do some crazy EQ settings where instead of using gentle, like in mastering, you boost 1 decibel at 20k and think, that's it, this is the way it should sound. And sometimes you just start to boost 20 decibels up and down, and you have a lot of nodes in what's that, Pro Q or some similar plugin like that, and just do some crazy EQ stuff until you kind of feel that this is the way it's supposed to sound. The processing is probably bad in one way or another, but the result is what it's supposed to be. And this plugin is one kind of that. When it sounds the way it's supposed to be, then you're done when you use the polarity switch. If you don't do that, then it's pretty safe to use, but with the polarity switch, it's crazy. All right, let's see what happens when we run this version of Tjock on a piece of music. So we start at 0, and we're gonna use a little bit, let's use 70 hertz, so most of you can hear what I'm doing, and we're gonna max this thing out. It's gonna be a lot of low end probably. And we start with listen how it used to be without the polarity switch. Without the polarity switch, and we have, I think this is 10 poles, that will create a lot of phase shifts, so we get some phase cancellation, and you can hear that, so bass goes away. And we can probably find a setting where it adds low end in the right place, when probably changing the poles will give you some setting somewhere where everything lines up, kind of, where the phase cancellation sounds good, where the boosted frequencies just feels right together with the other frequencies, with the rest of the spectrum. But when the polarity switch comes in, let's do that. So Just so you remember how this sounded without the polarity. Yeah, you can hear that a little bit of low end goes away. Let's hit the polarity. It's like a completely other plugin. It does something completely different, something else. So it's really fun to have that as a option to do something that's a little bit crazy. That will, most of the time, you will get a little bit punished, or a little bit. You can get a lot of punished when it comes to loudness. So I suggest you use the loudness button, either the continuous while working, and when you're done you can use the static if you want to. Mostly just to hear the difference. So let's do that. Let's hit the polarity and the continuous loudness, and we're gonna max out it like exactly like we did. You can see on the meter down here, the loudness meter here, that we have almost 7 decibels of loudness added to the signal. So we will attenuate the signal by almost 7 decibels when we have these settings. That is probably not usable at all. But if we do this way less, let's go down a little bit in frequency. So let's go down to 60 or 50. Let's do 50. And I'm gonna raise the amount knob until we have maybe 1 decibels of gain reduction instead. At 1 decibel of gain reduction because of added loudness or perceived loudness, we just feel, I mean, the signal is a little bit, it feels maybe a little bit less loud in the mids and the upper region, of course, but the warmth that's added makes it worth it, maybe. So it's always a give and take, and it's great to have the loudness compensation so you can just know if what you're doing will be added to the perceived loudness or not. So it's just a great thing. Then you don't need it for the final render, because just as long as you know that, okay, this will measure a little bit louder than it used to, but it also feels warmer, for example. Let's play around with this, and let's put it in liner phase mode, and then polarity just gets stupid, because what happens in liner phase mode when you switch the polarity and you blend the original audio with that signal, it will just cancel each other out. Just listen, see how that sounds. We just take a way low end. So in liner phase mode, then we don't use the polarity switch. If you don't want to use it like a low shelf filter and remove some low end with that way, but then you can use the EQ instead. That's just stupid to use this plugin. Let's play around with liner phase. I usually don't like what it sounds like at 100 Hertz with the crossover at 100 Hertz. But in liner phase mode and quite a lot of amount on Tjock, this actually sounds pretty good. And you don't get too punished in loudness either. So this warmed up the signal a little bit, which, or pretty much. So that was nice. All right, let's talk about the new stuff in Tjock. And that's the polarity switch. I talked about that, and that's new, and that just makes it more experimental. So you can use that when you're in minimum phase mode. That is when the liner phase button is not pressed. And I added the dynamic bypass thing that I have in a lot of my plugins, so that you bypass the plugin when the signal goes below. Let's do that. First off, when we set the level that the threshold is working against, and then you play a loud part of the song and you just hit this auto button here. That will give you a level that works, so it's easy to set the threshold, which you set with this control. Normally the default position is fine, so let's see what happens in break here. Let's listen to that passage again and listen in delta. So you can hear that when the signal goes below the threshold, it kind of fades out slowly. So it's not just a hard cut of the effect, it just fades out slowly. But when the signal goes above again, then it's way faster, then it's back almost instantly. So actually, let's do it like this. Let's watch me do that on the break here. And watch this meter here.
Oh, it's touching! Forever working! Oh! Unbreakable. Unbreakable. Unbendable!
Really useful, especially when you do stuff that adds a lot of harmonics and stuff. So it's obvious that the effects is there, and maybe it sounds good when the intensity is high, but when the track goes down in a slower passage, then it just sounds horrible. Then it's really nice. So that's the auto bottom for the signal threshold control. And we talked about the polarity, and then we have the below control. Below is something that I added in my plugin Cozy Den, which also is a kind of a little bit. That's a little bit more control plugin. It adds dynamics and warmth to signals, but that was the first time I used this, and it's just a level control for the signal as it goes below the threshold. So let's play around with that a little bit. So if we had, oh, sorry, I opened the manual. Didn't supposed to do that. Here we go. We listen in delta, and you can hear that the signal goes away when the signal goes below the threshold. So that means that the dry and the process cancel each other out. That means that the plugin doesn't do anything at that position. But when we change the gain in that spot, then you will start to hear the audio again. And without the delta, it sounds like this. What should we do? Let's attenuate the signal by 6 decibels, so it will be obvious that the gain is changing.
Oh, it's touching! Unbendable. Unbreakable. Unbendable. Unbreakable. Unbendable!
I don't know why why we would use these particular settings, but that's what it is. So you can set the level to compensate for perceived loudness as the signal goes below the threshold, because that signal won't be processed in any way. So you may need to compensate with gain to make them feel so that they are at the same level. All right, and those are the new stuff in Tjock version 1.22, and I also fixed a bug that was horrible that I discovered when I released the last version. So that's fixed. I don't think anyone noticed anything really, except for me. But it made the plugin don't do what it was supposed to do in certain situations. Not too often, but it could happen. So yeah, new fresh version of Tjock, and I hope you like it, and I'll see you with the next plugin or things that I come up with. See you. Bye bye.